Not only will somebody be less likely to try to take that from you, it'll avoid from you being possibly pulled down to the ground. So if you do carry a purse, I recommend having like a little wraparound shoulder bag, or even a what are they called? Fanny pack. There we go. That's actually what I do carry when I go places. I have one that's strapped across my chest pretty tightly. And then for gentlemen, if you are carrying your wallet, keep it. I try to keep it in your front pocket as opposed to your back pocket, in case you're traveling in areas where there's a lot of dense population. You're less likely to feel something going on behind you as well. Avoid wearing bright jewelry or carrying around electronics, especially if you have headphones in and you're not really aware and in tune with everything that's going on around you.
Yeah, and then so this group is obviously has more life experience than our juveniles that we present this to also. But keep in mind, you have a lot of life experience, so when something doesn't feel right, or you get that little hairs on the back of your neck stand up, it's there for a reason, right? It's based off of your experiences or something that you've seen, and trust that. Don't just ignore it. It's probably happening for a reason.
So if you do find yourself in a situation where you are unfortunately the victim of a crime, particularly here a robbery, comply with those demands. If they tell you empty your pockets, do just that. If they say give me your cell phone, give them your cell phone. Your life and your safety is more important than those valuable items. Those can be replaced, you cannot. I always say don't give them anything more. If they say only your cell phone, don't say, well, I have my watch too and my money. Don't do that. Just comply with exactly what they are telling you to do. And then try your best. I know it is a stressful situation. A lot is going on, but try your best to look at physical features and different things that you might be able to tell a police officer down the line. Try to use your own height to compare. Are they taller than me? Are they shorter than me? When they run away, are they running with a limp? Try to look at those attributes that can help us on the investigation side in the long run.
And then the last note we have is immediately contact authorities. Obviously, if they stole your cell phone, it's going to be a little more difficult, but it's easier for us to try to help you out, whether you're injured or something like that, to help you out if we know about it as soon as possible. So flag somebody down who's walking by or walking to a local store, restaurant, ask to borrow the phone. But oftentimes we'll get somebody who gets robbed or something like this. They'll go home, then they'll call a relative to say this happened, and then the relative will call us saying that this happened to their relative. And so now we're getting information like third or fourth hand, which makes it harder for us to try to help you out and do our job. So it's easiest if you, as soon as you can, call us directly to give us whatever information you can.
So just tying into devices, this was a part of our team conversations, just being aware when you are online, whether it is on an app through your tablets or your cell phones or on the computers, just be mindful that scams can happen through any of these devices, and to just be aware if you are receiving unsolicited text messages or emails. We have received recently some reports that callers are duping the police department's phone number, so it will appear as if it's coming from the city of Alameda, and then they pretend to be Sergeant Horikoshi or the chief of police, and they are requesting that you send money or saying that you have an outstanding warrant. So things like that, if it just seems not normal, you get those hairs on the back of your neck standing up, hang up, and you can call the police department directly and ask to speak to that individual. I can tell you right now, if they called saying Michaelia Parker was asking for money, I'm going to answer. When you call me, I'm going to say, no, that wasn't me. So just be mindful that scams can happen, and they are getting a little bit more savvy as we are going through cryptocurrency and advancements with technology as well.
Yeah, so think about probably something that, going back to all of our parents or whoever taught us, like if it seems too good to be true or too bad to be true, then it's probably not. The police department or the IRS or whoever is never going to call you and ask for you to send. It used to be iTunes gift cards to bail out somebody, right? Or the latest scams that we've been having is people meeting people either through like dating sites or something, becoming friends with these people, and then throwing out there, oh, I've been killing it in this cryptocurrency world. Here's my account, and it shows that they have tons of money, but this is a fake account. And then send me some money, and I can double your money within 2 weeks. Again, seems too good to be true, or else we'd all be doing it, right? And we'd all be not working, we'd be millionaires and all that kind of stuff. So think about those, but again, good or bad. If it seems way far out there, then don't trust it and do a little bit of research before you start sending money or something like that. Because the negative side is, oh, we have your son or your daughter or your grandson, granddaughter, they've been arrested for blah, blah, blah. I need you to send $10,000 to bail them out, right? That's one of the scams over the years that we've received, or that the community has received. And again, nobody's going to call you asking for money for something like that. So.
And the recent scam that Kevin is referring to, it's called pig butchering. And this scam, it is a lengthy scam. It's not something where they just email you or text you today, and by the end of the night, they're asking you for money. They are building a relationship with you over weeks, maybe even months before the topic of sending money gets brought up. So they're really trying to invest in your trust and invest in you before they start inquiring or even mentioning, oh, this is what I do for a living, and I've been making a really good killing on this cryptocurrency world. So at this point, sometimes because you built this 3-4 month long relationship with this individual, talking about your family and what you did for this past weekend, your guard might have gone down just a little bit, and that's how they are getting you. So that is a big thing that we're seeing right now, are these lengthy scam progressions. So this one was more for our teams that we had. Just be aware of who you are talking to. Sometimes you might receive messages from people that you think is somebody within your age range, or perhaps it is somebody who has a picture or a name of somebody that you went to high school with. So please, at all costs, avoid sharing any personal information, because at the end of the day, you don't really know who's behind that computer screen, who is behind that cell phone screen. A lot of the information that you put out there, you tend to have like a Facebook page or some type of social media page. Little things scammers will pick up on. You might say, oh, I graduated in 2000 blah, 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 19 blah, 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 from this school. And the scammers will use that and create fake profiles to try to befriend you and say, oh, yeah, we went to such and such school back in this year, and we took this class. You probably don't remember me. And then that's their way to get into your world now. So just tying into internet safety, never share your personal information online, whether that is directly sharing that with somebody or just having too much information on a dating app or on your actual profile pages. Use the privacy settings. They're there for a reason. So making sure that the privacy settings are set to the furthest degree is always the best way. And when you are traveling, I would avoid traveling and posting in real time. Number one, people don't need to know where you're at all the time. Number two, if you are traveling abroad and you're showing, oh, this is amazing, I'm here right now, this is also sending a message to somebody maybe who's watching that you're not home. So now you're potentially leaving your household vulnerable to burglary or any other crimes while you're away. And then here are some of our emergency numbers. Obviously 911 is our emergency number. We have text to 911 capabilities. So if you are in a situation where you do not feel comfortable being able to make a voice call, you can actually just type in 911 into your text message sender area, text the note, and that will directly send to our dispatchers. This is a statewide service in California, so no matter where you're at in California, it will pick up your GPS coordinates and it will send it to the nearest police department, and you can text a dispatcher. And then for Alameda, we have this alternative number, the 522-2423. This goes directly to our 911 center. Sometimes if you're closer to like the water or maybe towards Doolittle, you might get CHP, you might get Oakland PD. They will reroute you to us, but the direct number will go directly to us without any type of miscommunication there.
And because it's Alameda and we're smaller, our dispatch center, whether you call 911 or the non-emergency number, it's the same dispatchers answering the phone. So I always suggest jotting down or programming into your phone the 522 number, again, because that's a quicker way of getting to dispatch that it's an emergency call. Typically, it's possible that if you call the 337 number that you know, they'll answer the phone, but you might get put on hold because that's the non-emergency line. And if they're dealing with emergency calls, they might put you on hold. As opposed to if you call the 522 number and it was an emergency, they wouldn't say, do you have an emergency? And then potentially put you on hold because you're calling the emergency number. So that's it, right?
Yes.
So that's all we had really for the PowerPoint presentation. I know we kind of threw a lot of information, but we're here to answer whatever questions you guys have, if there's anything.
So it sounds like the 911 thing has been updated. I know in the US there's been problems with cell phones and GPS, but it sounds like here you'd actually know where we were if we called 911 from our cell phone versus a home line.
Not necessarily we would know where you were. So the way that I understand it is when you call 911, it pulls from the nearest cell tower that you're at and directs that call to where it believes it should go. That's why when she's saying, like, if you're all the way like on Doolittle or close to the airport and the nearest cell tower is actually in Oakland, it might push you out to Oakland as opposed to here. I would imagine though, like if you're in the middle of Alameda and you call 911, it would send you to our dispatch center. But yes, there have been a lot of advances in 911s. I mean, I've been here 17 years, so in that time frame too, and now you can text to 911 now.
And to my understanding, in communicating with our dispatchers, they have expressed to me and trying to inform the public as well, if you have a phone jack at home, I know many of us probably don't even have a landline anymore, maybe we do, but if you have a landline jack but you don't have a service, you can still plug in an old phone wall or an old phone into the wall, and that can still make 911 calls, whether or not you have a paid service, and that will give that precise, like it's calling from this house. Yeah, so it's a little tricky with the cell phones, but from what I understand with dispatch, they tell me like, if you don't have a home phone, still have one plugged in at your house that at least can make emergency calls.
Same with cell phones too. If you have like an old cell phone and it's not in service anymore, as long as it's charged and whatnot, you can still call 911 from a non-working cell phone.
Could you go over that again? If you have a non-emergency, but you can go ahead and call the emergency line, are you recommending you call the emergency line?
I'm not, no. I'm just saying it's the dispatcher that's answering the call, they're all the same. Like we have anywhere from 3 to 4 dispatchers that working at one time. And if you call 911, the same dispatcher could answer like the non-emergency calls too. Some bigger agencies only have dispatchers who answer emergency calls and then only answer non-emergency calls. Again, we only have 3 to 4 dispatchers, so they're all answering the same calls. So the call still goes to the same place.
And it could go to Oakland rather than Alameda.
On 911. But if you're calling that 522 number, that goes directly to our dispatch center. That's why I'm saying I always suggest you program that 522 number, unless you're calling if you are actually in Oakland and you're calling for emergency. But yeah, but we can still route the phone call to wherever the appropriate places that it needs to go. So.
I'd like to also suggest for any of your online accounts, always use multi-factor authentication, whether it's your email, anything, always use that because then that helps mitigate people hacking into your accounts.
Yes.
And then if you can look up, like if you use Gmail, just you can just Google it, how to use a multi-factor authentication. And it'll give you instructions. But any account, I would highly suggest it.
That's not as a really good tip. Thank you.
The other thing we didn't really cover off on is mail. I always suggest all junk mail you know, whether it's that, oh, you're pre-qualified for a credit card, shred everything. Because we get a lot of mail theft, either from the mailbox or from, I mean, you might not never know, but like your recycle bin, people steal that, and then it's, I don't say it's easy, but it's fairly easy for these criminals to take that bit of information, go out and find the rest of your information somewhere else, and then open up a credit card or a line of credit in your name. So I always suggest anything with potentially sensitive information that you receive in the mail or that you're throwing away, throw it through a shredder first.
And if you don't have a shredder, they have shred scissors as well. So there's a couple options out there. Any other questions? Yes.
Okay, question. So I don't want to scare everyone here too, but there's probably more active shooting in the country than we all would love to have. And so you evaluated this area. So if there was an active shooter here, what would you recommend?
For you guys or for us?
For us, yeah.
Yeah, so when we talked about this a little bit when I was here a couple months back now. Fortunately for you guys, you have a lot of, we'll call them exit routes, right? Whether you're in the building, whether you're outside. You know, obviously it kind of depends on who you're here with. Are you here with little kids? Are you here with, you know, elderly people that you need to help out? But the biggest thing is if you can't escape, then you should probably try to find some place to hide. But you have however many exits out of this building, and then you have the exits on Pacific or then out to Buena Vista. Really just try to get out. I mean, the last thing we want to suggest you do is try to take matters into your own hands, because that's probably not going to end up well. But try to get yourself to safety.
I have heard the updated guidance on shooters though, that if you can't get yourself to safety, you throw things at them and use whatever you can to try to prevent it.
So
What do you?
I'll start this with, and I talked to the group. I can't stand up here and tell you guys what to do, right? Because that's what I was told, you know, because then it falls back on us like, oh, the police said to do blah, blah, blah. So historically, yes, there has been different options, right? And one of the initial ones was called run, hide, fight, right? So run out of the place. If you can't run out, hide somewhere. And then your last resort is fight. Because, yeah, I mean, if somebody comes in here, you're not going to just be, oh, well, I guess, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do. So, yes, that is a portion of it. Obviously, protect yourself. And I think it kind of falls under protecting yourself and figuring out what, if something bad happened, what are your options to use as a weapon, right? Whether it's a chair, the camera stand, you know, something like that. That kind of answer your question. Right.
Any other questions or things that you maybe heard that you want us to address? I have one.
I was wondering, I hear a lot on the news about when you go to the banks and someone's gonna follow you and break into your car or whatever. Is that frequent in Alameda?
I wouldn't say it's frequent. I would suggest not using the ATMs. I would say go inside the bank, and then whatever business you're doing inside the bank, make sure, for example, you're taking cash out. Go inside to do it. Put your money in your purse or your bag or whatever, and then go outside. A lot of the times, what we'll see is either at the ATM, people get money, and then they take their money and they're walking back, making sure the ATM gave them the right amount of money. So you're walking with exposed money to whoever's watching. But again, that's why part of it, I would say, go inside to do your business as opposed to out at the ATM. The other thing that we've seen at the ATMs recently is people are putting these skimming devices into the ATMs, and you or me as the regular customer don't even know it's there, but they're grabbing all of your account information, your PIN number, and all that kind of stuff. We don't find those out until the company goes to do work on the ATM, and they're like, oh, this weird device is attached to it. That's not supposed to be here. So I think it's always safer on both aspects to go inside and do whatever you need to do.
And I think if you are traveling with a large sum of money to go with somebody else, whether that's to deposit money or to withdraw money, have somebody with you. And, you know, I would avoid loitering or sitting in your vehicle after you've made a transaction or made some type of, or done some type of business at a bank, because you never know who's watching. You get in your car and you travel to where you need to go next, as opposed to just waiting around.
We'll go right here and then we'll get to you, sir.
With the robbery, is it ever worth fighting back?
I don't think so. That's my opinion. I mean, I think about what I'm carrying on me at any given day, and is whatever I'm carrying on me at any given day worth me getting severely injured or killed? And I would argue no. I mean, I'll leave it up for discussion, but I don't think so. To the one slide's point, they're coming at you with a weapon or a gun and they're asking for your wallet. Here's my wallet. I mean, I think it's the safest bet.
I think you don't know what their mindset is, and if they are going to go away as soon as you give the wallet over, let them walk off with the wallet, you turn around, call the police, and then call your banks and cancel those cards. So that would be my thing. Now, if you're in a situation, correct me if I'm wrong, where they are assaulting you and, you know, assaulting your child or anything like that, you know, for me as a mother, I would step in because I don't want to, you know, hurt my child, somebody to hurt my child. But again, if the best bet to keep you and your loved one safe is to just hand it over.
I live in Oakland, but I often am here in Alameda too, and have a lot of friends here too. But based on anecdotal evidence, people have talked to me. There have been a lot of, I guess you'd call it property crimes, where people are either stealing purses, cameras, phones, trying to steal catalytic converters from people's cars, breaking into people's cars, purse snatching and all that. And my impression has been that the bad guys that are doing these kinds of things are often specifically targeting specifically women, particularly Asian women, particularly elderly Asian women. So, you know, I tell my neighbors to be careful, but I'm thinking, I don't really know whether or not, you know, you guys have a lot more experience about this. Does that sound right to you, that they may be targeting specifically women, elderly Asian women, or things like that for, you know, quick opportunistic crimes like purse snatching and things like that? Does that sound correct?
I would say no. Only from our data here in Alameda, because the way we run data, we run it by crime, the victim description and all that kind of stuff. We don't have like a spike into your category of like elderly Asian females of robbery victims. We actually don't have that many robberies here in town in comparison to like Oakland or whatnot. I do think like a lot of the crimes are driven by opportunity, and so yes, I know in the news, like I keep going back to this, but this was like the biggest thing in the news. Oakland's Chinatown, about how everybody over there was getting robbed or theft or whatever. I don't know. Well, we're not dealing with those numbers, so I don't really know those numbers. But I don't know if that's crime that's driven because of the victim description or type, or just the general area. I'm not sure. But again, going based off of here in Alameda, I wouldn't say that we have like a huge number of Asian elderly victims of really any type of crime. Do you?
No, so for last month, for the month of May, we only had we had 8 reported robberies in town. The previous month for April, we had 3 for the entire island. And I don't see any type of trend within those numbers. And I think the trend that I do see, it's usually that crime of opportunity. Somebody may have been perceived as a little bit more vulnerable. Somebody was distracted. They were walking around, with their head in their cell phone. They didn't even see the person walk up to them before. Those are the trends that I see, is that it's that crime of opportunity.
Yeah, and I think the difference for us too, we don't have like a big Chinatown community, or we don't have like a big, fill in the blank community. It's more just kind of all spread out. So again, getting back to the victims of the crimes here in our town, I don't really see as a very specific group of people.
The other, it's sort of a follow-up question that I just asked. I've been talking to some of my neighbors who were victims of crimes and who were Asian, and they said, "Oh, well, I didn't report it to the police because it's too much trouble, and they're overworked anyway, and it's just a property crime. So if I report it, I'm wasting my time, and it won't help anything." And I would like to try to talk them out of that and say, "No, you really should report it because it might help the police,
It definitely helps. Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps with understanding what's happening out there, having a little bit better of a suspect description if this is all happening in the same area at the same time, that kind of stuff. Like this person might just give us one piece of a suspect description, whereas like this person gives us 2 more pieces, and then by the 3rd one we're like, oh, we figured it out. But I do know there's a lot of people who don't want to report things for those reasons, or they're embarrassed that they were a victim to a crime, or they just don't care, I guess. But no, I mean, we're never going to shy you away if you want to report that you were the victim of a crime. I mean, yes, it's gotten busier here in Alameda, but still at the same token, we're here for you guys, and we don't want you to ever feel like I'm calling to bother them because I was the victim of a crime. So.
And it helps direct our resources as well. That is something that we really try to encourage. If you are the victim, to please report it, because now we can look at those trends, and if we see an uptick of reports in a particular area, we can direct our patrol resources based off of that data that we are receiving. So definitely, if you are the victim of a crime, please report it to us, no matter how big or how small it is.
I have two questions. Believe it or not, I got a text message from a member in France who would like to know anything about daytime robberies at South Shore. Are there any stats that I don't know what her...
I don't have those stats off the top of my head.
You can tell there was 8 on the whole island last month.
Yeah.
And I know at least 2 or 3 of those were not at South Shore Center. But yeah, I mean, I can, that's a number, like I can get you a specific number if you want, and I can send
It's
you
not
to
like
that.
a big change in...
Again, our biggest crimes in Alameda are theft. So catalytic converter theft, or just retail theft, auto theft, and house break-ins, or car break-ins. Those are our 3 top crimes, and have been for pretty much as long as I've worked here.
Do you think some of the retail stores that have closed at South Shore was due to robbery?
Well, not robbery, but theft.
Theft.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yes, but I think that's a nationwide problem, right? If you watch the news, San Francisco Union Square is having a ton of stores shut down, probably for those reasons, whether or not they're going to admit it. But you watch the news and you see how many of these stores have 5, 10, whatever kids or adults running through there, and everybody's stealing armfuls of stuff. I mean, that can't be good for business. And if we can't combat that because it's just happening so often and the stores can't combat it, then I guess the easiest thing for them to do is start shutting down stores. But I mean, yeah, I guess it's possible. Because I know more of the stores at South Shore Center are more, we call it mom and pop shops, that as opposed to like big name places. I think the biggest name place that closed down was Bed Bath & Beyond. But I haven't heard anything like as far as like Old Navy or Kohl's or Ulta. And those are so Old Navy, Kohl's, Ulta, and every once in a while Ross is like the bigger names of theft, and then Safeway.
Michael's left.
Oh, you're thinking of Beverly's?
Anyway,
The craft store that
Yeah, I don't know the reasons why they left, but it is quite possible.
So my question is, on the 25th of this month, we're having a bazaar. So we're going to have people. So every year I usually call to say we're having this. I'm not quite sure what you folks provide for us.
So
I just let you know it's happening.
Yeah.
Could you please be on guard?
So kind of to put in perspectives of how this works. So from 2 o'clock in the morning until 11:30 in the afternoon, we have 4 officers and 1 sergeant for the whole island. And then from 11:30 till 2 o'clock in the morning, we go up to as many as like 7 officers and 2 sergeants. So when a phone call like that comes in, like, oh, we're having this big gathering or we're having this whatever, if we have people available, because keep in mind they also have to answer calls for service throughout the day and whatever else is going on throughout the day, one of 2 things happens. If there's not a lot of time, they'll maybe drive by and see like, oh, looks like everything's running smoothly. I know when I worked patrol, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I had time, I actually stopped and walked through and said hello and grabbed some food and hung out for a little bit. But that was back when we had like 10 officers working. We kind of talked about this the last time we were here. A couple of other options that you have, which I don't think is as practical, is we offer a service what we call contract overtime, where you're gonna pay to have an officer here or 2 officers here, and then yes, they are yours and they're here for whatever hours you want. The other thing we talked about is reaching out to other members and just having them be members of here, and having them be like your extra eyes or that person who's walking people to and from their cars if they want it.
We're gonna have yellow jackets on certain people.
Yeah.
They'll be highly visible.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the suggestions I had the last time I was out here, because I don't think it's really, I don't want to say practical, but it's to spend the money to have officers stay here is I don't think as beneficial as just having people like, so like for example, the antique fair that's here the first Sunday of every month, they pay for 2 officers to be out here, but they're doing like, they're doing a lot of money and other kinds of other issues, so it's beneficial for them to have a dedicated police officer for that.
Last question.
It's good too.
I covered it in the So a request was made, and I don't know how you do this, to have a police car just parked close by, or in a parking lot. Is that a possibility?
That's a possibility.
Okay.
There's so when we were driving to find a parking spot today, I don't remember if it's part of your guys' property or the next property over, but there's like a driveway and a fence. Is that your property or is that next door? It's right here on Pacific. You know?
Oh, is it
Just like
restaurant?
That's on this side of the street, I thought, wasn't it? It was like right here. Maybe.
Is it between here and Preacher's Dock?
It's this way, towards Oak Street.
Here by the greenhouse?
Maybe, yeah.
That's not our.
Okay. Well, all I was going to say is, yes, that is possible. What we could do is find like a red zone or something like that. So again, I know parking is limited around, so we're not taking an actual parking spot. And yes, something like
How
that
do
is
I
possible.
request that? Just call you guys and request it?
I give you my card and you can request it. Noted.
No more questions, Jonathan.
I have a question. I've noticed over the past, few years, more and more cameras at intersections, and I wasn't sure what the cameras do.
So we have like almost 0 recording cameras throughout the city. But if we have a camera that's recording something, it's usually on our city buildings. So most of the ones that you see on the traffic lights are to help monitor the traffic of changing the light from green to red or red to green. That's what those are there for. Now, whole separate topic, council approved for us to put in license plate reader cameras, but those are not attached to streetlights, traffic signals. So like I said, most of the lights you see with the traffic signals have to do with helping rotate the cycle of the lights, and they don't record it.
That's too bad.
I mean, it's a very two-sided topic, right? A lot of people talk about privacy, and we look at it from enforcement and helping us solve crimes, and I guess I can see both sides.
I have a question. If we know of a place where there's a lot of people speeding regularly, can we request a cop to come out and just park on McCartney?
So that complaint would go through our traffic division.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean their voicemail is probably full of intersections that are or streets that are problems. Again, currently our traffic division has one officer and one sergeant.
There's two people.
Yeah.
Traffic division.
Yeah. Again, when I started, we had 6 officers and a sergeant or something like that, but our numbers were completely different than they are now. Part of my unit's assignment is traffic, so we try to do some traffic enforcement, but again, we are getting pulled in so many different directions that sometimes we don't get to do that. And my goal with my unit was to have them do some sort of traffic enforcement every day, but again, some days we're pulled in different directions and we don't get to do that. So.
And then one thing you can also do on our website, alamedapolice.org, there is our crime, it's a link to our crime graphic site. And once you get on our crime graphic site, you can actually see the different crimes that are happening the day of, the previous day. But there is a section where you can formally request extra beat attention. And then it goes to our dispatch center, and then they will put it on the board so that officers pending calls for service are aware that, hey, this was requested today. Can you spend time in this area if possible? Again, it's all pending calls for service, so it wouldn't just necessarily be just the traffic officers as well. Of course, you want to talk to them, but that is also another option too. Yes.
Is it important to always carry something of value when walking, just to have something to give up in case of a robbery?
Oh, I've never actually had that question. Have something of value to give up that you're willing to part ways with.
Would there then attack you if you don't have anything?
Oh my gosh.
So I think maybe, I don't know if this answers your question, but getting back to one of her points of not having anything visible, getting back to the gentleman's question in the back, it's more of crimes of opportunity. So, a person who's carrying a big purse, the assumption that there's probably something good in there, as opposed to the person who's not carrying anything, or if you saw the news again about all these robberies for Rolex watches and fancy watches and stuff like that, if you don't wear a fancy watch, then people aren't looking at you twice. So I don't think you need to carry something of value to give up if that happened. I would say try to carry less things of value so you're not vulnerable, or you're not targeted for a specific reason.
Other questions? Well, thank you so much.
We'll hang out for a little bit longer if
Yeah.
you feel like asking a question in front of the group, and we'll answer those questions.
Don't forget to grab some drinks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much for coming.
Just that
Thank you for
we'll
having
get before,
us.
and I'll try to find
Nice to
it.
get some questions.
Yes, no, happy to do so.
Can I get a picture for our newsletter?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, no,
Thank
no.
you.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you. That person knows exactly where this goes. And I want to make sure it goes back.
No, because I would say no, only because then you're going to be tied to that limit, right? So if you no,
something happened in the garden. Someone fell off the ladder. Yeah, I got it.
yeah, and that's why I'm saying I would call that 522. I don't have to call it. But I would. That's why I'm saying I would store that phone number into your phone, because that's the emergency line that goes straight to us. Yeah.
As long as you say where you're at, we'll know.
Yeah, and dispatchers are trained. I mean, it's the first thing they ask is where this happened. Right, so even if you're like 23, 25 Pacific, and then nothing else, then we would start sending. All right.